Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome. We are your hosts, Josefa Kapadia and Jasper Rivers.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
Get Paid for Your Pad, episode 250, major milestone, and it's going to be a fun episode because I have somebody on the podcast who started a company that Airbnb hosts and vacation rental owners can use to monitor noise in their properties. His name is David Krauss. He's also involved in Rent Responsibly, and he's the co-founder of Noisaware. So, David, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. I know you guys have been working on something really exciting that you're about to launch, and so we'll get into that. But first of all, could you tell us a little bit more about your history with Airbnb?
Sure. Well, first off, congratulations on 250 podcasts. I'm honored to be your guest today. But for sure, my history with Airbnb goes back to 2012 when I hosted my first guest in Boston, Massachusetts. And like many people that I speak with, and probably many people that are listening right now, fell in love right away. I was kind of love at first hosting, and I had somebody come visit from France and I think Germany, and then somewhere from across the state of Massachusetts. So just people from all over the country and also the world, and bringing that experience to me just allowed me to fall in love with the whole process. And pretty soon after that, I decided, to take my real estate background and make a go of becoming what I would consider a professional Airbnb host. And Airbnb helped me finance a move to Dallas, where I ultimately followed my girlfriend and now wife. And so I credit a lot of things to Airbnb, not the least of which is Noisaware, which ultimately came out of some Airbnb experiences.
So you started in 2012. That's the same year I started. A lot of things have changed. Do you still remember what the website looked like and how the system worked back in 2012?
Yeah, I would equate it to pencil and paper because I had to do a lot of stuff on my own outside of the website. I remember the app was just horrible, but super slow. Now it's a whole new world.
There probably weren't that many people hosting in Boston in 2012, I imagine.
No, I was probably one of the first 50 to 100, somewhere in there. There's thousands now, but that's a story for everywhere USA and everywhere around the world. It's quite incredible to watch.
Are you still hosting now in Dallas?
I am. I have about 5 or 6 properties that I manage and bring about 300 people through Dallas every month. Keep a couple people employed, and it's just a fantastic business. And whether you treat it as your main business or side business, it really is a way to put your fingerprint on it and bring a lot of people into your city and be an ambassador for your city. So it's just a wonderful thing.
Sweet. So tell us about Noisaware, and first of all, tell us about how did you come up with the idea, because I'm sure it came out of necessity. You probably had an experience and you were trying to find a solution for that problem, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Like many inventions, necessity is the mother. So in this case, I had a guest who had rented my 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. This is a condo that I owned and managed. And she went on to have what we call mini Coachella, a party that was heard around the building all weekend long. It was basically a concert in my apartment. And I had no idea about it. I was actually the last to find out about it, which was the problem. because the way I found out was from my building's lawyer, and that lawyer served me papers that ultimately, forced me to sell the condo. Lost about $30,000, all because of this one nightmarish party. And that was a slap in the face, and just a recognition that, not everybody is going to be a perfect guest. And there really aren't too many safeguards once you hand over your keys to somebody to make sure that your guests are using the house or apartment properly. And so ultimately what I realized was I needed awareness in real time when there was a noise issue. Otherwise, I was going to be playing catch up and dealing with these problems over and over again. And that was the beginning of the need and the idea of Noisaware.
And I'm trying to put myself in your position. So you're clearly seeing the problem, and you're trying to find out a solution. Like, what are the first steps towards actually building a startup?
It's a great question, and it's something that I think back to that moment when I really started on Google, because I was Googling noise monitor Airbnb or sound meter Airbnb, and nothing came up. The only thing that came up was about $5,000 and wouldn't actually do what I needed it to do. It was more for occupational safety. And when I realized there was this hole in the world, right? When there's not a Google result for something, that is a startup opportunity, really, because, the minute you're looking for something, you're probably not the only one. And so what happened after that was I had a coincidental meeting with my now co-founder, who's an electrical engineer and, a brilliant guy who could actually build me the first prototype of what became Noisaware. And the very first step was me asking him for me. And once we both got into the weeds and the details, we realized, man, this is a pretty neat thing we're building. I'm surprised it doesn't exist yet. And once we realized that there were a lot of other short-term rental and vacation rental hosts and managers that were struggling or finding out about parties too late. I mean, it makes great news, right? If you see a headline, Airbnb guest trashes such and such, property, it make a lot of news. So we kind of discovered the problem through the news, and just have had our heads down building the best system possible for a couple of years now.
And then what are the next steps? Do you look on Alibaba in China or something to find cheap parts, or?
Well, first you have to build an MVP, minimum viable product. So, a prototype or something that's functional was the first step. So Andrew, my co-founder, is an electrical engineer and software programmer, like I said, and he put together kind of, like you said, the key parts that you need. And we actually put it in my Airbnb unit. And then actually kind of knew that the group we were going to have would be pretty loud based on, what they came into town saying they were going to do. Again, this was a property that didn't really have neighbors. So it was okay to test in that property. And, lo and behold, you could tell that this group was loud when I got a text message saying noise alert. And then when you click on that text message, it comes with a hyperlink. You can go straight to the graph of the noise level history at that property. And so you immediately are aware of, what ultimately would have been, in this case, potentially a long party or all night affair, but I was able to get ahead of it. And so once we had that aha moment, you realize we're onto it. This really works. And from there, we've just been improving the product. And we've had some great mentors and advisors from HomeAway, now from Airbnb, and a couple other industry folks that have helped us along the way, have really guided us to accelerate the growth and accelerate the product development.
Awesome. It sounds really great. And can you explain us a little bit more about what is Noisaware? What does the product look like, and
Sure.
How does it function?
Sure, absolutely. So Noisaware is a privacy-safe noise monitoring service for Airbnb hosts and short-term and vacation rental managers. The way the system works is it relies on measuring noise levels from the property that you're monitoring, and so we have two parts of the system. One is the hardware, the other is the software. The hardware is a sensor that plugs into the wall, and you teach it the Wi-Fi name and password, like programming a Nest thermostat or an Alexa, very easy. And that's the hardware installation. Very simple, takes about 5 minutes. You can also screw the sensor into the screw plate so it doesn't get pulled out. And then on the software side, you're setting your rules. So you're setting what constitutes a noise alert or something that is too loud. And you do that by setting your threshold, which if you think of a graph on the y-axis, you're just setting a level that you think is appropriate for that property. And we walk you through how to do that. And then you're also setting things like quiet hours if you so choose. So you only get alerted when your quiet hours are there if you don't care about noise during the day, let's say. And then lastly, you have to teach the system or tell the system who you want to get notified and how. So you can receive a text message or email alert, and it will go to one or more people. We have some customers that have 10 people alerted because they have a very big team and a lot of properties. And then most people just have one or two. And then the way the system works is it's kind of set it and forget it after you set it up. And when, as you have people coming through your property, over 95% of the time, there's never an issue. But for those cases when there is an issue, if let's say your guests, take my case previously, we're starting to throw a rager, within 3 to 5 minutes, the noise levels on the graph are going to exceed the threshold level that I've set. And immediately I receive a text message with a link to view that graph. And with that information, you can reach out to your guests. Vast majority of the time, people don't really realize they're being as loud as they are. And so it gives you an opportunity to prevent future real complaints, future problems by getting ahead of it and actually having a hospitable moment. And, because we are in the hospitality industry, we oftentimes coach people to tell their guests, hey, I just want to let you know that, we either received a complaint, I got a noise alert, what have you, and the building is very sensitive. Please let us know if there's anything else we can do for you. We're just trying to keep you out of trouble. There's a great bar up the street if you need a place to go, something like that. And 80% of the time, the noise levels are back in line with the acceptable levels within 15 minutes. So we see that the system works very quickly and it works very consistently. And it's been a real godsend to thousands of people at this point.
And how do you figure out as a host what the maximum noise level should be?
So that's actually where a lot of our development has come in. We've monitored, I think, 70 or 80,000 reservations at this point. And that amount of data has allowed us to really identify what nuisance noise levels look like on a graph, and a lot of testing as well. So when you think about it on the decibel scale, most of the time people consider, quote, loud as about 75 decibels. But in a single family home versus an apartment with shared walls, there's going to be different tolerances for how loud they can, people can be without bothering people. So what we do is we walk you through on the setup, what kind of property do you have? And then you can set the thresholds based on our recommendations. And then ultimately what people do is they adjust it if they need to going forward. So if it's too sensitive or not sensitive enough, you can always adjust it.
That's awesome. I'm just trying to think what I would do, because I imagine that it, like you said, it differs very much from location to location, right? If you're somewhere in the Rocky Mountains and you have some cabin up there, you don't really care how much noise they make, because the only creatures that you'll keep from sleeping are like, I don't know, the bears or the wolves or something.
Yeah, it's a great point. One thing that it's not just neighbors and noise nuisance issues. Noise is a leading indicator for misuse of the property. Oftentimes it's the only way to tell, that there's really something major going on or going wrong. So even if you don't have neighbors and you just want to protect your property from, an unsanctioned party, party you don't want to be hosting that you don't know about, it's a great way to do that. Some of our customers, they'll get an alert and they're expecting that person to have a party because they told them to. They just like knowing that they have the data on their side. If it ever comes down to kind of what happened, how late did the party go, what was going on, you have this time-stamped historical data, and that really helps people figure out what's going on their property when otherwise they would have no idea. So we help people after the fact as well.
And I guess just by mentioning to the guest that you have a device that measures noise, probably is a encouragement for them to not make that much noise in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Jasper. I think the main idea is most travelers, the vast majority of travelers, do not want to cause problems. Most neighbors don't mind short-term rentals. They just don't want to deal with problems. So if you can get in front of the problems, within 3 to 5 minutes, you're able to really mitigate issues before they happen, prevent them, but also give people a reminder when they need it so they stay out of trouble, because they don't want a $500 fine either. So it really helps both sides of the equation. And we haven't really had problems with people, having, parties that go on and on when there's a respectful host reaching out to them. It works pretty well.
And I guess it will make the neighbors feel more comfortable too, right? If you're telling your neighbors, hey, I'm doing this Airbnb, but I have a device that monitors the noise. So if there's anything out of control, I'll know very quickly and I'll resolve it. And I imagine you could even tell your neighbors, like, hey, why don't you, I'll make some noise and you let me know when it's too much. And then I'll set that as the threshold so that people will, I'll get a message when people make, louder noise than whatever you find acceptable.
Very, very true. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, and I've been asked to do this a number of times, is actually talk to the neighbor for a customer. And it's exactly that. It's an olive branch. It's a show of good faith. It's, the most responsible you can be is aware of what's going on in your property when you're not there. Many people have cameras outside or smart doorbells, but those don't really indicate when there's a noise issue. Noise travels over walls quite easily, through walls quite easily, and is one of the most irritating things when the neighbor has to deal with it, and then they feel that you as the host don't even know about it. It changes all those dynamics when you have a system in place to prevent issues before they happen or right as they begin. And neighbors, I've had neighbors that have really turned around and they said, if this works or if this solves the problem that I have, I'm going to be fine with it, because, what I don't want is a long-term neighbor that, long-term renter next door who's loud and is going to be there for 12 months and is loud. That's kind of one of the things that, we were able to do. So you're going to have the best neighbor you could imagine, because I'm going to be all over it and I'm going to be responsible and responsive.
Sweet. So you've told me that you guys been working on something new and you have some exciting news to share with all of us. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I am thrilled actually to announce here on the podcast that we have been in the lab for over a year, rebuilding the system and relaunching a new version of Noisaware. We call it Gen 3, and it is our indoor and outdoor system. So for those of you who have a single family home or a backyard or porch or patio, roof deck, we've built a battery-powered, outdoor, weatherized, ruggedized sensor that will be able to do what the indoor sensor does, but outside. And with that, we'll have a new dashboard and an app and a number of other advancements. I think you're going to post a link, Jasper, that will allow people to check it out. But it really is the future. I think that, as we talk with companies like Airbnb and HomeAway that really support what we're doing, it's been a great journey. But one of the big requests that we've had is how do we get the whole home inside and out monitored and managed, and so we're able to do that. It comes out this fall. It's really exciting. I think our team literally jumped for joy and popped champagne when the first pre-orders came in. So it's now available for pre-order.
Is it much harder to develop a sensor for outdoors than indoors?
It is. It is. A couple of reasons, but mainly it's the power supply. So, now that it's battery powered, it's got a really, robust kind of system underneath the hood. And we had to, re-envision what we wanted our company and our product to be. The current sensors will all work, just as well in the future. This is just the next thing we're bringing out. And, it's exciting because where a lot of the problems originate in terms of legislation are in areas that have a lot of single family homes, even traditional vacation rental communities, where people have outdoor spaces. And then, that's where a lot of noise travels in all directions. And so it's really an important development. Our vision for the short-term rental industry is that it's going to flourish and grow and be a bigger and more integral part of the way people travel as we all get older and become 20-year veterans in this industry. And I think part of that is having the right tools that allow for people who aren't doing short-term rentals to feel comfortable with it. And so that's a big step in the right direction when we can service the outdoor space as well as the indoor space.
Sweet. So the people can order the new unit now, but it will be shipped in the fall, is what you said, right?
That's right.
Okay, cool. And so there's a page that people can go to if you do want to get your new outdoor and indoor Noisaware sensor. The link is share.noisaware.io/Jasper. So it's share and then Noisaware is spelled NOISEAWARE.io/Jasper. And for the pre-order, you will get a discount. If you want to get the indoor sensor, it's normally priced at $199, but if you do the pre-order, it's $139. And then the outdoor sensor bundle, so that's you get the outdoor and the indoor one, it will be priced at $298. And if you make the pre-order, you'll get it for $209, so you save $89. Is there any cost involved in addition to the initial purchasing price?
Yeah, so there's a subscription cost with to run our system. So for all the data management, the data storage, alerting, the system doesn't work without a subscription. So each property has a subscription, and that's normally $99 per year. And I think your discount makes it $79 until September 10th.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to pre-order it. Can you ship it to Colombia?
We can, yeah.
Sweet. So you do international shipping. So for those of the listeners who are outside of the US, they can participate.
Depending on the country. So I would encourage people to email us at info@noisaware.io if you have any questions about shipping outside of North America.
Awesome. That sounds good. Awesome, man. I'm excited to try it out. my apartment in my penthouse, I should say, in Cali is a bit of a bachelor pad. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be people who are going to be throwing parties there. So I definitely want to, want to be able to get an alert if things get out of control a little bit.
It sounds like you have a pretty sweet spot there, and love to check it out. I mean, the it's worth mentioning. So that's why I interrupted you. Sorry for interrupting, but the peace of mind is ultimately what we're in the business of. So it's not just the alert that you're paying for in a way. It's the peace of mind knowing that your property is protected, every day of the year, whether it's occupied, unoccupied, etc. And then additionally, a lot of the times, all of us in the short-term rental industry get painted with a wide brush, and we get blamed for a lot of things. So having the data, the historical data of what's going on in your property, oftentimes people tell us that, I showed my neighbor the graph and it was able to, create a peaceable conversation around the noise issue, or the noise issue that never happened. And so I hear bachelor pad, sweet spot, and that's what I would have loved to have protected, right? And I just didn't have any data on hand when my thing went down. So I just thought I'd mention that because we'd love to get you hooked up and get your feedback as well. But I think you'll find you'll just feel more comfortable.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And that's a very good point you made. So thank you for sharing that. Talking about being responsible as a host, you're also involved in rentresponsibly.org, right?
That's right.
And we talked to Megan last week, and she's involved in it as well. So do you want to share a little bit about your involvement and why you think it's important?
Sure. First of all, shout out to Megan. I love Megan. She's out of Nashville. Wonderful person and ambassador for our industry, and a wonderful person to have on the Rent Responsibly team. Rent Responsibly has a mission to advocate, celebrate, and educate folks about the short-term and vacation rental industry. So specifically what we're working on now is building a toolkit for folks that want to advocate locally to their county, their city, to their HOA. And this toolkit's going to have best practices. It's going to have things like, how do you raise money? How do you create an organization? How do you get people to join it? And all things that we've really been working with a lot of people on, and Megan specifically has done excellently herself. And the idea behind Rent Responsibly is, we need to fly the flag as ambassadors for our industry of what it really means to be a responsible, law-abiding, neighborly participant, and also tell the stories of how we do that. I think there's a lot of negative press and a negative connotation, or negative, almost propaganda that goes against what our industry really does, and we provide wonderful experiences for people, and the infinitesimal amount of times that things go wrong get blown out of proportion. And so we're giving a voice to the positive narrative, and also building a toolkit for people to advance locally their own cause, as well as get organized and be able to fight the advocacy fight that is so important to keeping the future bright for short-term rentals.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with you on the fact that the majority of the news around Airbnb are those couple times where things do go wrong and people trash a house and stuff. I look through the news, and I publish news items every day almost on Get Paid for Your Pad Facebook page and the Airbnb news group. And you're right, it's those stories. It's a lot of negative news that's kind of overwhelming. So for an outsider, it really changes the perspective. It really creates this idea that this Airbnb thing is dangerous, and there's all sorts of problems around it, and it's you can lose your home, or your home can get destroyed, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important, the work that you do, and also I guess Noisaware is something that can prevent these type of issues. So that contributes to a safer and a better hosting experience for everyone.
For sure. And the reason we started Noisaware, the reason as part of Noisaware we started Rent Responsibly, which just so people know, it's a separate organization. It's something that we started, but we keep them separate because it's important to speak the voice of Rent Responsibly without promoting Noisaware at the same time. But the reason we started it was our customers were begging me to come to their city and talk to their mayor, talk to their city council. And so 2 years ago, we did a road trip down the West Coast and stopped at a number of city halls and really just told people, hey, the noise issues you're hearing about, the bad neighbor kind of anecdotes are not necessarily true, and there's also solutions out there. There are best practices, and it's kind of the industry solving its own problems. And we realized that was really important and also a necessary piece to the puzzle when the city is trying to figure out what to do. So, when you think of what Rent Responsibly is, it's ultimately the voice telling the truth or telling our side of the story to the cities, and also to help people tell that story themselves. And so we really put a lot of effort into it. It's a passion project and a labor of love. I mean, I love this industry. As I started off, it's done so much for me in my life. We have to fight the good fight.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting to the end of this podcast. Is there anything you wanted to share with the audience, whether it's about Noisaware or Rent Responsibly or anything else regarding Airbnb and hosting?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I would encourage anybody who has questions to message me. Probably best to go to info@noisaware.io. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love to know how we can help you. I do go to cities and speak to city council members quite frequently on behalf of Rent Responsibly. Let us know if we can help you in your neck of the woods. Ultimately, we all win together, and the more good stories and good legislation we can produce and help educate lawmakers and let them know, what we're really doing over here is really, really important. This is a long game, and if you think about it, we're all in very early innings, the early stages, and I think it's just incredibly important that we bring ourselves together and advocate for what we know is a bright future for wonderful industry.
Awesome. And for those who are interested in the Noisaware indoor or outdoor or both the sensors, let me just repeat the link: share.noisaware.io/Jasper. The offer is valid until September 10, and your sensor will be shipped in the fall. You can get a $60 discount on the indoor one and an $89 on the package, and then you get $20 discount on the monitoring subscription. And for full transparency, I get a few dollars as well if you sign up for my link at no extra cost to you, though, and I use that money to produce this podcast, quite honestly. So appreciate your support if you do use my link. And David, thanks so much for taking the time. I'm super excited to try out my own Noisaware sensor in my pad in Cali. And to the listeners, thanks for listening. Super excited to have published 250 podcasts. So it's onwards towards 500. And thanks for the support. If you want to read the show notes, you can find them at getpaidforyourpad.com/podcast. You'll find the links as well. You can email me at jasper@getpaidforyourpad.com with any questions you have. I do a live stream every Monday morning at 10:30 a.m. PST. You can watch that on YouTube and on Facebook, although last Monday I had some technical problems, so I didn't go through on Facebook. We'll always post the recording on the Facebook page as well, so you can find it there. And every Wednesday there's another podcast. So thank you for listening, and until next time.
Get paid for your pet. 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 Get paid for your pet.